So why did you think about writing this book?
It came about completely by accident because I was walking the Camino and I brought a sketchbook and a small art kit with me, thinking if I feel like drawing, I will draw. I'm not going to give myself any pressure to do it. I had been keeping a almost daily sketchbook diary at that time, but it was so much going on, I wasn't sure. But then I found myself, yeah, I know, honey. Then I found myself feeling I really need to have this outlet and write about each day. So it became a daily practice on the Camino, much to my surprise, completely unexpected, but then it ended up being a very good and healthy practice for me to have. And now it's been compiled into this book.
Just the thought of walking every day for 20 kilometers and then sitting down to sketch is daunting to most people. How did you manage to do that?
I had a way of that. I would first write, because I'm such a big diary, I write my diary almost obsessively. So because there was so much going on, every time I would stop while I was walking, because we would stop every few hours for a coffee break or something. And so I would just use that time to write, like, oh, this just happened, that just happened, da da da. And it was just a way for me to get out all these big emotions that I'm experiencing. So by the end of the day, I still had a lot of that. There's still so much that I want to say and to process. And this was just a way for me to process the very big, intense days that I was having. So that part was quite easy. Sometimes physically it wasn't, I was tired. But then usually after a nap and lunch, I would be well enough to, and feel energetic enough. I know, honey. Feel energetic enough to get into it. And it became such a practice, it really helped me process each day. So I began to look forward to it, and it would help me move on to the next day.
Did you ever mentally draw stuff as you were experiencing them, or you would just sit down and they would come to be?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I would often see things, and so I have to admit something. I have two things which actually work against me. I have very poor eyesight, to the point where even wearing glasses, there's a certain range that is completely blurry to me on one eye. And I have a shaky hand, so I don't know how it ended up that I'm doing this now. But actually, the thing with the blurry vision is that when I take photos of things and then I draw them, it helps me see what I'm not actually able to see, what is actually in front of me. So it's a way for me to experience that sight. So often I would see something and I would think like, oh, that's something I would like to draw, and I would take a photo of it. And then when I would actually come to draw it, I would realize it wasn't that. It was actually something slightly different. So that was always kind of interesting. But generally, I wanted to draw so much more because I'd never seen that kind of landscape before. I'd never been to Spain before. It was a real revelation. There was so much that I didn't know. So everything, the novelty of everything was so special. And I wish I could draw a panorama of everything around me. That wasn't possible. So I could only pick and choose. And so I've always, realized for me, rather than a big, massive scenery, it's nicer to draw a little detail about something and really zero in on that. So a lot of the things that I've drawn tend to be, like one poppy rather than a field of poppies, things like that.
Wonderful. And reading this book, just going through it, it also feels like this is sort of can work as an instruction manual for someone who's going on the Camino walk for the first time. Would you call it that as well?
It's not terribly practical. I've given a packing list, which to me was a thing that I researched literally for 7 years before I went. And that was a really big part of it for me, I'll just give you a quick preview, just to sort of explain like the things that I needed to take. And for me, I thought that's where the preparation ended, that as long as I've got the right packing list, I'm prepared for the Camino. Not true. So this is more, I would call it a memoir rather than a guide book for the Camino. This is more a personal memoir of what my experience was like.
Okay. And I understand you self-published it?
Yes.
How did that go in Dhaka?
That's that's a longer story that I will talk about more at length.
Okay.
But yes, I wanted to feel like I wanted to bring out the book in the way that was very meaningful for me. I was very clear about what I wanted the book to be. I had great support by a wonderful designer and wonderful printers. So everything has worked out beautifully. And that part of the story will hopefully continue.
Wonderful.